Hi, Mark here from the Tangibound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangibound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangibound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangiboundNetwork.com and see if Tangibound Network is right for you.
This is a Danger Entertainment podcast. DangerEntertainment.net. Danger Entertainment Podcast Network.
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast. And or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org, or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out and try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time. Stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to a new episode of The Crazy Life, everybody. I'm Brian. Joining me as usual is Henno.
Yeah, usual, my patootie.
Back from a long hiatus.
Don't use that H word, man.
I know, right?
People don't come back from that in podcasting.
Yeah, I know. That's true. They don't. That's why one of the reasons like with Salty Language, are always like, we have to put something up this week. We don't want to, like, feel comfortable, like, that wasn't so bad, like, not doing,
Taking that extra week off.
Yeah. Next thing you know, we're putting out one podcast a month.
Yeah, I was listening to you guys from last week, and, you're talking about just, like, that 2 weeks ago, it's just like, it ain't happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's why I was saying it was weird, because within like a 3-week stretch, I'd only posted 2 podcasts, because 2 of the weeks we didn't do one, then Salty Language was one, and then when me and Jen did this show, was the second one. It was strange. I'm so used to doing those twice a week, And the 1 week, the one I put up wasn't, it was stuff we had already recorded, so it wasn't even, we didn't sit down and record. It was just felt so weird.
I bet.
Mm-hmm. Now I kind of, this year's the first year where I've kind of, because I've seen a bunch of podcasts where they'll around December, they'll be like, hey, see you next year, basically. Take the month of December off because of the holidays and all that. And, you know, every year, Tony and I, we've always been able to work around it. You know, you, me, and Jen have always been able to work around it. And it was like, wow, this is the first time where I'm like, you know, that makes sense. Like, you know,
it
maybe,
totally does.
Maybe take at least like those last couple weeks off or something. So I was like, yeah, maybe we need to be smarter about it this coming year. Put something in the bank or whatever. But, oh, man. So no Jen this week. She's
working.
Yeah, that's right. She's working. Yep. So we keep our streak alive of not having a full group.
Well, that was okay. So everybody, little pulling back the curtains. Last week, I was given the opportunity to podcast with just Jen, and I was like, okay, and be the one responsible for ending Brian's perfect streak. Like,
Yeah, because I think that was the day we took Jim into the hospital, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it?
No, you were going to the airport.
That's right. Yeah, I'm sorry, I got the wrong end of the week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It gets like that when you miss some time.
It does, yeah. Yeah, that's right. We were, taking Roxana back.
Yeah.
So yeah, I appreciate that. You know, you kept my streak pristine there.
I know. I was like,
It was one of those that I was like, I told Tony. It was kind of funny though, because I was like, you know, I like the fact that I've done every episode of this show, and I was like, you know, I think it was somewhere around this range or so when I missed my first Salty Language. I can't remember where it was. I think it was in the late 100s or mid 200s, somewhere in that range. So. But nope, keeping it strong here.
Yep, for sure.
Henno saved the day, sacrificed himself.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Because you weren't on the show last week, so.
Well, and for me, I'm like, I'm back to doing 3 podcasts, which I said I'd never do again.
Right. Yep.
But it's just, it's that then it'll be over, and I can move on to bigger and better things. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I told you about that. You know, Angela was talking about maybe getting podcast up going again. She said, you know, would you like to, be involved with it and help me out with it? And I was like, well, let me think about it. You know, I've got, Jeannie was coming into town and some things were going on. I had some gigs and whatever. And after she left and I did 2 gigs and I had to post 2 podcasts, I'm like, nope, don't got the time.
Right? Yeah. It's
just not going to happen.
Yeah. Most people probably don't realize how much is involved in doing these, even if like I barely edit, but it's still, I have to post it in various places. I have to upload, there's just all these things you have to do every week. And, that's basically to just maintain. Like that's not doing anything new or whatever. That's just like, hey, I want to make sure it's on all of our social media. I want to make sure it's, Tony does the website and our Instagram and stuff. It's like we have all these things. And when you get something else added to that, you're just like, man, when am I going to get this done? Which I kind of ran into with Salty Language because Tony and I just couldn't line up, first of all. And then I had other things going on. So I was like, this is going to be really tough to get a show together because I've already got various things on my plate, and luckily, I mean, honestly, that's why, and I ended up just deciding, you know what, I'm going to put the show up a couple days late. It's what I had to do, which I don't like to do, but it was just this time I had to, so.
And I had we're with our new Danger Entertainment. For those of you who have not checked it out before, Danger Entertainment is one of the networks that both this podcast and my podcast that we're part of, and they've
Salty
expanded.
Language too.
Yeah, Salty Language too, and we've expanded They've expanded the amount. First, Michael had I don't know, it was like 6 tops or whatever it was, and just kept it really simple. And it was just an opportunity to to kind of promote a little bit, cross promote, and but it wasn't it wasn't done really seriously like a lot of networks do. And Michael found came up with a good idea. I thought
so too.
Let's expand it. We'll have a calendar, and we'll make promos and all this stuff. So Steph and I recorded our promos at the end of November. I posted them up yesterday.
Yeah.
It took me it was about an hour to edit them, and it wasn't that hard, but it still took me 6 weeks to freaking do it.
Now, here's the difference between me and Henno. Tony and I, the week when Michael was like, hey, I need everybody's promos, Tony and I sat down and just banged it out, just right there. And I basically just filtered it a little bit and sent it off. Took me 20 minutes. Yeah, so.
Now, granted, I ended up doing, 2 different ones, so a little variety, that kind of thing.
But there's that too.
But that's the thing with podcasting. For some reason, there's some work that goes into it. And I just think it's like anything else. It's just another deadline I don't want to meet.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So true. Well, part of it with us at times is because for anyone who doesn't listen to Salty Language, Tony and I hadn't recorded a new promo since, 2014 or 15, I think. So
it was 13.
Yeah, it might be. It was a while.
It was old.
Yeah. Like I said, the last time we recorded one, we had a third person on on the show. But it's really hard for us to describe our show in a minute. Because, to steal from Seinfeld, it's really a show about nothing for most of the time. It's, it's about something, but we don't know what it's going to be about until basically we sit down. And then it's like, oh, it's this. So it's tough to put that out there, because we talk about pop culture, but we don't only talk about, we don't obsess on it generally. It's usually one thing here, one thing there, and we very much train wreck all over the place conversationally. So, we don't know where we're going to end up. So that's why we tend to just sit down and be like, hey, it's us. Come listen.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what else to do. Yeah. I need some writers. That's what I need.
I just started looking around because I made a list today because I was like, okay, when was pretty much, before New Year's, because I listened to you guys do the Christmas episode, and then I haven't been on.
Yeah. That sounds right.
But made it through Christmas. No problems. I was, it was worked, and what was really nice was on. So the only thing I had planned was for New Year's. We were going to go out to East Idaho, go to a party with a group of friends, and then go snowboarding the next day. And my GM decided he's like, because I came in, I worked like a half a day on Christmas Day. And so he said, hey, I'd like to let you go early. But the reality is he wanted my boss to be the one to do it. Because basically after we had another quote unquote intervention, basically is another set of interviews with an HR investigator, and things didn't change at all again. And it was really disappointing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really disappointing. Now, the amazing thing was, and, I shared about this last summer where I said out loud that, I've never had it as good as I've had it at work. And it's true. For me, it was great. Not so much for everybody else, but for me, it's been great. There's been no issues whatsoever. But there are issues. And then afterwards, everything went along great. There wasn't any problems. But I think there was a lot of people hoping that there would be some changes.
Yeah.
And a little different, and it wasn't happening. And then it was like, well, now what? Well, finally people are listening, and the right people are listening. and those right people. And I think, I talked to my GM one day, and I said, hey, this is the deal. I'm just going to lay it out to you. It's like, this is what happens. And we don't want that to happen. Mm-hmm. And we also don't want something, nobody feels that this has to be a negative outcome. There could be a very positive outcome out of this with a few little adjustments. And one of them is to be, all of us, because one of my coworkers started talking about, there was an issue, and he likes to say, I know we're friends. And I'm like, no, you're not. And he says, I know. I'm like, no, you don't know.
Yeah.
You are coworkers no matter what. Their relationship never changes. It doesn't matter if you're friends outside of work, if you're boyfriend and girlfriend, husband and wife, none of it matters.
Yep.
You are coworkers first and foremost, and that relationship never ends. And I said, I had a thought recently. And it's one of the things that I think that the reason that most of us as a team do really well, and that is regardless of where we are in the work hierarchy, meaning supervisors or, that kind of stuff, most of us are in service to each other, always.
Yeah. Which is realistically what any team is. You're all doing certain things that across the board, it's about the team winning, basically,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you want to call it, I do it because we're friends, fine. But I look at it as like we're in service to each other because we would do anything to help each other. And it was the one thing where we have a place where there can be some improvement. And I was trying to stress that because the ultimately what this comes down to is nobody wants to see punitive action if something positive can make everybody's experience better. And so I think part of this whole I get time off thing was an attempt to do it, but it didn't quite come out that way.
Yeah.
But either way, it was still basically my GM walked in and said, I'm letting Henno go for the rest of the afternoon. Cool, awesome, blah, blah, blah. And it was great. We, got an early start, still ended up getting up there really late, and it was dark. I had no idea we were going. Had a really fun time at this party. They're all people that I've met, but not enough. And some of them I've always wanted to have, sit down and have a conversation, that kind of stuff. And we did. We had a great time. And the next day, got up. It was freezing cold. I mean, we were driving across to the mountains, and at one point I looked down, and yes, it's wind chill, but it was minus 18.
Ooh, yikes!
Yeah. So that night, I took some drunk people home, and at one point I was at a gas station, and it was 6, and it felt like 6. It was like, okay. So when we were going across, but luckily it was getting warmer as we got towards the mountains, which I'd seen it was going to do anyway.
Yeah.
And what's funny is I got pulled over on the way for speeding. And the greatest part about it is I was like, I didn't believe him I was going that fast. And if I don't live so far away, I'd go out there and contest this thing. But it's like, it's $90. And the greatest thing was it didn't get into my head at all. I'd been having such a good weekend. We get up there, and Sharon just hasn't been up in a long time snowboarding, and she just was having a hard time. And finally she's like, she fell, and she's like, this sucks. I'm done.
Yeah, right. Sure.
And it was gorgeous, and there was nobody there. Evidently the day before there was like the line to get into the parking lot was 2 miles long. They started eventually just turning cars away.
Wow.
Yeah. There were so many people. So, and I was gambling on the old, everybody's hungover on New Year's Day.
Yep.
And that worked. There was nobody there.
Especially something like snowboarding. It's like, it's not something you're probably going to want to go do, the day after heavy drinking. Yeah.
And they'd gotten dumped on out there. So the snow was good and everything was great. Awesome. And so I went, I hadn't been on my telemark skis, really much because they just weren't set up right. And I finally figured out what I needed to do, and I got them set up better. And right away I was just happy, fun. It was what I needed. I did a few more runs, and I started noticing that there's like, it's where you end up with like a fog that starts to happen just because of the conditions. It was colder in the valley, and then, like I said, it was warmer at the mountains. And so it was creating its own, like a mist.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it was starting to get thicker and thicker. And I'm like, okay, I'm looking like we're done.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's early in the afternoon. We got like a 4.5 hour drive all the way home. And, you know, we hit the road, we head back home. And at one point there was just like, Sharon just looked at me. She's like, this is one of the best New Year's I've had. Like, she's like, I can't even remember the last 3 or 4 New Year's. I have no idea what we did. And it's not like we did anything special, but it just felt good.
Yeah.
And it was really fun. I really had a good time. We got home and we let the dogs have another night with a groomer's assistant. And then they were scheduled for grooming on Wednesday anyway. So I was going to pick them up after work. And it was just funny getting home. And there was like, where are the kids?
Yeah, right.
But the bummer is when I picked up Jax, his leg was jacked up again. And I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, here he was seriously getting better. And, you know, it's not Ada's fault. It doesn't, you know, irrelevant.
Oh,
it doesn't matter. But while I took him to the vet a couple weeks ago and they did he did an x-ray on it, we have a new vet and he, you know, kind of had some ideas of what it might be, but he's like, do you mind if I send it up to Randy? And so one of our vets here is literally internationally known for doing orthopedic surgery on dogs, hip replacements, knee replacements. I mean, he is the guy. People fly their animals out here in their private jets to have Randy work on them. Okay. It's like he's one of the dudes that's literally, you know, he's creating with a local engineer, he's creating this type of surgery for dogs, especially. So, you know, when I love it, the new vet's name's Dan, so Dr. Dan. So when Dr. Dan's like, do you want, I'm like, yeah. I want Randy's opinion. You know, that's the dude. And so Randy was like, yeah, you know, it's like, you really need to see both legs side by side. And you need to do the x-rays when the dog's sedated so you can get the right images and angles and see what's going on. Yeah. And so I was like, well, Jack's got a little lump I want to have removed. So instead of doing it at my local vet, I rescheduled for up at the Sun Valley one. And then when they have him sedated to remove the lump, they can do the x-rays too. Sure. It makes sense.
That makes sense. That way you don't have to sedate him multiple times. Yeah.
Yeah. And like Dan said was, you know, like, he's like, do you want to do the surgery? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do the surgery, but I do want to have a thorough evaluation. I want it, like we talk about, get the estimate. Yeah. I want to know what I'm looking at. You know, because surgery could be thousands of dollars. Yeah. Or who knows what. He doesn't seem, Jack's not in any pain as far as I can tell. He just doesn't want to use the leg. Yeah. And he's hopping around worse than it was before. And so it's like, and then there was that idea of like, yeah, it's going to cost me money. But again, I have access to one of the premier orthopedic surgeons for dogs. Right. Yeah. Right here. Why wouldn't I get that guy's opinion?
For sure. Yeah.
Right. Yep. You know? So that happened when Jeannie came out to visit, and we had a great time. I had such a great time. You know, it got me to clean my house, and
right.
I was cleaning to the last minute. At one point, I had my ringer off, and I was finally like, okay, I got to jump in the shower, and I was just sweating I was just covered in sweat because the way I am with cleaning is once I get started, I go deep. You know, if I'm on my knees cleaning something on the floor, I'm going to clean the whole floor.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah. Don't have to get back down there.
Well, that's just how I am. You know, I'm going to pull out all the tools and I'm going to do it right. And so I was going to town. It was great. And all of a sudden I I should check the phone. And she had texted like, yeah, this is a tiny airport. I'm like, oh, I'll be right there. Yeah. And it was a great time. We got to totally be super touristy, you know, and you know, went at 8 at places I typically don't go to because they are touristy, but they're awesome places. And we went snowshoeing one day. That was a blast. You know, it was a beautiful day. It had dumped like, I don't know, 6. It was a good 6 to 8 inches of snow.
Yeah.
Might have been a foot up at the summit. And there we were the next day. Like they were still breaking the snowshoe trails, still stomping them back down.
Yeah.
So we got up there and the sky was blue. There was a light breeze. Oh, it was amazing. We had it was just a really great day, and it was a good time. And then what was weird is our tiny airport, just because of runway size and blah, 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 they have to do visual landings here. And all of a sudden, it was going to snow, which means chances are they can't see the runway. They might not be able to get out. And that day when she was supposed to leave, she couldn't get out. And, I was like, okay. Yeah, and luckily so back to my work thing. Like I said, somebody had, one of our board members finally was like, no, this is it. We are not going back to status quo. We need to have an attitude adjustment here. And if it doesn't happen, gone. And I was like, whoa, when I heard that, I was like, yes, finally somebody's supporting us.
Yeah.
And so when somebody needed to pick Jeannie up at the airport, and it was like, it was almost 3:00, I walked in to my boss and I was like, hey, my friend's stuck at the airport. She couldn't get out. Can I leave early today and do it? He's like, yeah, go ahead, blah, blah, blah. And it was like a completely different person talking to me. And I was like, yes.
Good. Hopefully.
It's been really good.
Yeah. Hopefully that, it's not the, New Year's resolution kind of thing, where it lasts for like a week and then back to status quo.
Well, and that's the thing is we don't get to know everything that's on the table, and they're not telling us. However, what I know now is that there's somebody supporting us.
Yeah.
And wants to see us all become a team, which is what we all want anyway.
Yeah, and it helps when someone in that position is not just like, whatever. Like someone else deal with this kind of a thing,
Exactly, and that was the greatest thing in the world that somebody said, I'm going to take care of this. And they did. And it was noticeable. And I can't think that it helps. I think it's hard anytime in any relationship, and I don't care who it is, whether it's friends, your family, your significant others, or work. When somebody gets a beat down, it's hard to make everything all copacetic and kumbaya right away.
Right.
People are on edge. People can be suspicious. People can be, even though you're wounded, everyone reacts differently. Some people come back and are like, hey, what can I do to make this better? Some people retreat. You just never know.
Yeah.
And I like it that somebody cared enough to say, hey, let's snap out of this. Let's have something good come of all of this. And it did. And so it was great to just walk in and finally felt like this is how it's supposed to be. It's a homeowners association. It's like, come on.
Right.
Yeah. And I felt like it felt good. And so, so I did that. And then the next day, go to work. It was pretty cloudy again, but it was supposed to clear up by afternoon. And all indications were she was going to get out again, and this fog rolled in from the south, from Twin Falls, and done. They weren't busing because Twin Falls was sucked in fog too.
Oh, wow.
Because otherwise they'll bust them on the other airports. Nope, that's not happening. So the cool part was I had a gig that night, and Jeannie got to come up and see my band play.
Yeah.
And that was a total blast because it's like, it's finally like, see?
Yeah, right.
Because that's the thing is that most people on the most of my friends from podcasting aren't exactly going to pop over and check out a gig.
We're all so close, though.
I know, exactly.
Yeah.
Although I have, Dave has asked a bunch of times, could we stream this? And I'm like, oh, yeah, we absolutely could. I could set up some cameras and we could stream an entire show on, Facebook or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, then and then it's just get back to routines. I hadn't worked out for a week and then, it's like did some other things over this last weekend. And so today I got off of work. And I got to the gym, and I was like, my motive. I was happy to be there.
Yeah.
But my desire to just let's go pump some iron.
Yeah.
I was like, no, not so much. like took all the weights, went way back down to, bottom, just went through the motions, but it was great. I got a new book. I jumped on the stair, tread. I'm like, cool, and, felt good and kind of get back to routine. Cause even though like the holiday stuff is over, it's wild how like having guests or these kind of things can still make it feel like everything's disrupted.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah. And then there's another friend of mine's coming out from Atlanta in a couple weeks. And then I've already made plans for, which I'm stoked about, is at the end of February, going to go back to California, celebrate my 50th birthday with my family, and my cousins are coming out, which is awesome.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So they sent a message saying, so when my uncle passed, I guess Helia and Heikki talked about it, like, we should, because I came out and saw my uncle, what's it been, about a year and a half now. Yeah. And so I think they had the same thing. It's like, let's go see, Waldemar, because it's morbid, but it's the truth. Yeah. It'll be probably the last time they ever see him again.
Yeah.
It's just a fact.
Right.
And, and what's really cool is, so my sisters, because I was like, oh, I'm sure my parents would have no problem with that. And then my sister said, you can stay with, in their downstairs unit. It's going to be empty by then. And one of the things is I was going to be there. And so they're like, okay, well, we'll make it work. They'll get there on the 27th, be there till March 2nd, and I'll get there on the 28th. Mm. I'll be there longer, but they'll, I'll get, I saw Helia when I was in Atlanta, but I haven't seen Heikki I think it could be 30 years. I have no idea. Yeah. Wow. I haven't seen him in a long time. And then the trippy thing is Helia's son, Mart, is coming out, and because and I was like, oh, really? And because I guess Martin had said, I want to meet the side of the family. And I'm like, you met us all. And then I was like, oh yeah, you were 5.
Right.
He's 27 now, which answered me 22 years ago.
Yeah. Wow. That's quite a while. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that. And so now I'm kind of like, planning, I'm not sure if I should just do a big party or like, or see my friends individually and, that kind of stuff. And and that's just like what I hated about this year is like, it's like, okay, February, okay, March, April, taxes. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And January is always like, okay, my dental visit was, on the 11th of last year. My vision appointment was on, like these in the dogs, their annual thing and the money. And so, that's where one of my other things, 2 more things on my list. 1, got a DNA test.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. My sister bought, Sharon and I both DNA tests, and I've got the results back, but I'm saving that for Dark Angels and Pretty Freaks, 'cause I'm going to go see them when I'm back in California. So I'm saving my results till I'm on their podcast.
Fair enough.
So yeah. And I think I'm going to go get to check out Lucas. Annalise said, you want to come out and do a tour? I'm like, yeah, I want to do a tour. So I think it might be with my, my brother-in-law and my nephews, which I think will be a blast.
Oh, cool. Yeah. That should be a good time.
And then the last thing was, one thing I like to do in January is look at my financial stuff and see where everything stands. And, the one, when I did the second on my house, I still had a couple of debts left to pay, and it was about $11,000 that was on this one credit card, and I was just going to hammer it. I'm like, this is it. It was 0% interest for 18 months, and I'm like, it's time to get serious, take care of business. So I checked. I was like, okay, where am I at with that? And now it's 4.
Nice.
Which is just amazing that I made the payments and I let time go by, and I'm like, and so I did the math, and it's like, yep, September of 2019, it's done. And then it's like, okay, I got the Jamaica trip. I don't know what's going to happen with taxes because all the rules have changed. Yeah. I don't know if I had enough, if there's been enough withholding or not. And I was like, okay, I put $600 a month towards this. I'm going to have to reduce that right now. And it was a weird thing because, you know, when you finally set a goal and you start moving towards that goal and it's working, to break off of it is really hard.
Yeah. Well, and especially like this is like you just said, you're like September, you know, like you're smelling the finish line, or it's like it's down the road, but you can see it, you know, and you're like, I'm almost there. Yeah.
And I feel like it's such a commitment that I've made and that I've worked towards. And there was a moment of like, oh, I'm failing. And it's like, no, I'm not. I've already won.
Right.
I put a huge dent in this.
Well, plus you're in a position to where you can still pay on it, you know, take the amount you're paying down to pay for other stuff. You know, that's a pretty good spot, you know?
Yeah, it's still, I have options.
Yeah, I was going to say without going backwards, you know?
That's it. And that's the main thing is like, I want to make sure I pay these various things that are coming up without going backwards.
Yeah.
So if anything, I just end up breaking even or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's not falling behind. That's not anything. That's
right.
To me, I'm like trying to look at it as like I'm just making an adjustment to the plan.
Exactly.
And the fact that I haven't had to make an adjustment to the plan yet is a big win for me.
It is. You're right.
Because the old me found all sorts of reasons to adjust the plan.
Right. I've been there. I know. Yep.
Yeah. And so like to be able to, you know, and then to go, okay, no, it's okay. It's all going to, in the end, it's all going to work out. If it takes another 6 months, so be it.
Yeah.
I might be able to still do it all. What I want to do is I just want to put the money, I just want to have some cash in savings right now for the next few months just to see what happens and how everything works out and blah, blah, blah. But it was really great to see that number where it was and to go, okay, you know, I'm on the right path right now.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm far from clear.
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Once this is done, now it's paying off that second.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's not like paying that and
right?
everything's, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like, you know, woohoo, but it's just, it represents something because it's like, it's the last of the credit cards.
Yeah. Finally, the boss battle.
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. Yeah, let's just hope it doesn't take me 8 tries and, you know, having to look up some online sheet. And,
right. Yep. Hope you got a bunch of lives. No.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think without looking at my list, I think that's the last few weeks.
That's quite a bit of stuff. Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it is. I had pretty much all that's been going on with me. For anyone who's, you know, interested, last week I mentioned about how Jim had a heart attack and, you know, now he's home and all that stuff. He's doing really well. Things seem to be going really, you know, really well. He's up and moving around pretty easily and everything, and, you know, which is good. You know, now he's going to start having to go back to doctors for the follow-ups and, you know, all that garbage, but, you know, part of the gig, you know. But one thing that happened to me this week that, boy, I'll tell you what, I haven't had my patience tested like this in a long time. And it was, you know, I've gotten now to where I schedule our groceries, you know, to where you just have to show up, they put them in your car and you're gone, you know.
Oh, okay.
Which is nice because grocery stores have, as I've said various times on here and Salty Language, grocery stores seem to get under my skin quicker than any other store. So it's just, you know, so it's like cool. I can kind of avoid a lot of this, you know. And for, you know, it's been great. Like every time we do it, you know, I do it the night before, we pick it up the next day, you know, we're in and we're out. Like the longest wait I think we had was like, there was one time it was like 15 minutes and that was only because basically they had like 5 cars ahead of us, you know, or something. So it was just a matter of just them getting to us, you know, and it was still within the time frame, you know, cause you pick an hour, you know, that for them to, and that you'll be there within. So Anyway, we do this the other night, and it was just a few nights ago. And unfortunately, it was the night before we were supposed to get anywhere from 5 to 10 inches of snow.
Oof.
And, you know, for anyone who lives in an area like that, or, you know, any sort of, you know, whatever it is, flooding, you know, when this stuff happens, grocery stores become empty fast, you know. So we get to the store, and I'm like, oh, man, like, their parking lot was full. And I was like, wow, you know. But thinking to myself, awesome, I'm glad we did this, because, you know, I don't want to wait in those lines.
Yeah.
And not to mention, you probably wouldn't be able to find a lot of stuff, because the weird, some of the obvious stuff goes, then weird stuff goes, you know.
The stuff you've described have been like, why?
Right?
Like,
yeah. It's like, what are you going to do with that? So, yeah, anyway, so, you know, we get there, I call them like, hey, we're here, and they're like, okay, like, you know, we'll be out soon. I was like, okay, cool, you know, we sit there. It's like 15-ish minutes later, I call again. Or no, I'm sorry, a guy that had brought out someone else's stuff walks up to the window, you know, and is like, what's your name again? And I told him, and then he goes, okay, well, there's about 5 cars ahead of you, so it's probably going to be about an hour. And I'm like, okay, my brother and I were planning on going to Target, which is across the parking lot, basically, right in the same area, you know. Right. Yeah. So I had to go get some stuff over there, and we were like, all right, we can do that, you know. So we go over to Target, just mosey around, you know, take our sweet time getting what we needed. Talked with one of the employees there for a little bit, you know, that we talked to about, like, Funko Pops and stuff. And, you know, we go back, and I call, and this girl answers the phone, and she's like, we're almost done. She's like, it's still going to probably be another half hour. And I'm like, okay. So we go over to GameStop, because, again, we talk with people in there about Funko Pops and whatever. So we go over there and just kind of kill a little bit of time, you know, just not really doing it, and then come back when, you know, half an hour later. And I call, and the girl goes, we just finished pulling your order. She's like, but we still have to, like, process it or whatever. And I think one thing that happened was the first guy, I forgot, he said that their scanners were giving them trouble. And I think, you know, because they walk around with, like, the, you know, a handheld, and as they pull your stuff, they scan it right then. And I think they were probably having to just take the list out, get all the stuff, bring it up, and then scan it all in. So that, you know, it's a slower process that way, because it's not what they're used to doing or whatever. Anyway, so I'm like, okay, well, how much longer are we talking here? You know, and she's like, oh, you know, she's like, it shouldn't be too long. You know, she's like, you know, and we're like, okay. And I'm like, you know, fine. We sit.
It's getting extra vague.
And we sit, and we sit, and we sit. And finally I see somebody come out to get someone, like, no one else was getting anything at the time. There were 5 other cars sitting there. Like, nobody was getting their stuff. And then one car, like, pulls in, and, like, within 5 minutes they get their stuff. And I looked at my brother, I'm like, unless they're doing what we're doing, there is no way that they should get their groceries before us. When you've already put us, at this point, it was like 2 hours behind when the stuff was supposed to be available, you know? And I'm starting to get mad, because this is beyond reasonable. 15 minutes, half an hour, even the hour. Cool, we had other stuff to do anyways. No big deal, you know? But now we're at 2 hours, and we're hungry. And we were wanting to go, honestly, look for, you know, Funko Pops and stuff. But,
priorities.
Yeah. Well, and also, you know, we sell stuff on eBay. We knew somewhere where we could go get some stuff that we knew we could make some money on, which we weren't able to go do because we were sitting there waiting for the groceries. And the worst part is, I went inside to get my medicine from the pharmacy, because you can't get that with the other stuff. So I go in, there's nobody in line, boom, boom, and I'm out the door. But they had 8 or 10 checkouts open that each had probably 8 or so people in each one, and everybody had a full cart. They had 6 U-scans or 8 U-scans open. Everybody over there even had full carts, which is crazy. Because I don't know if you've ever gone through one of those with a full cart. It is a pain in the ass.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, wow. And the first thing I thought, side note, was like, why don't they move one cashier over to... They have 2 sets of U-scans, or self-scanners. Like, why don't you put one person on the other one, then you can open 6 more. Like, that gives you 6 registers open, It's like, that seems more efficient in the long run, or call an employee, but whatever. And I'm going, oh, man. But I'm sitting out in the car going, I bet I could have went in and got everything and been out of here, even with those lines. I bet I could have already been done with this. Now we're getting into, this is absurd, Well, I see this guy come out. There was a totally different guy. I hadn't seen him yet. And I'm like, well, it must be, shift change or whatever. He brings someone their groceries, and this girl comes out, and she talks to the car behind us, and then she comes up to us, and she's like, he's here helping me now, so he'll get your stuff out, really soon. And I'm like, how soon?
Yeah, exactly.
You've been telling me for 2 hours now. It's almost done, And she was like, she's like, we're pretty close. I'm like, okay. So I don't know. It was another. I don't know. Actually, at that point, we had been there. We had been sitting there for almost 3 hours past when we were supposed to be able to pick up the groceries. Because I scheduled it between 6 and 7, and we were after 10 o'clock. And the groceries finally come out. And I'm furious. Because you've wasted my time. I could have went in and done this myself. The whole point of this process is to not have to wait 3 hours or, spend hours in the store getting the stuff. It's so you can just go get it and leave. And in my head also, I'm going, you've cost me money. Because there's stuff I could go buy that I can't go get now because the stores are all closed. And I'm going down this list, and the guy comes out and he's like, I am so sorry. And he's like, we had somebody walk out right in the middle of the shift, and he's like, nobody told me until about 15 minutes ago. And he's the manager. And I'm like, really?
Oh.
And he goes, yep. And I'm like, why wouldn't they tell you? And he goes, I don't know, but I am so, so sorry. And, so we start loading the stuff because I got out and helped because at this point, I just want to get the hell out of here, And so we finally, we get that done. Then I look and I'm like, there's no toilet paper on here. I'm like, I know I ordered toilet paper and we, kind of need it. So, and I look at the list and sure enough, it's on there. And so, again, he profusely apologizes and he goes in and gets, the toilet paper and brings it out to us. And then I realized that they also didn't give us the case of water that I ordered. And at this point, I'm kind of like, I'm not going to make this guy walk in again because I've been in his shoes.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'll just bitch and get, excuse my language, I'll just complain and get the money back, basically. Or I'll get him to give me, next time I'm in there kind of thing. I'll go in a couple days. Well, when he brings toilet paper back out, he's like, hey, call during the daytime. He's like, and we'll do what we can to, like, basically give you some money back. Because you had to wait so long. In my head, I'm going, you should just comp this. because this is ridiculous. And it's like, I wonder how many other people waited as long as we did for their groceries. Because they're already paid for, or I would have been like, peace out.
Yeah.
There's no way I would have waited. I would have just gone in and got the stuff, my brother and I were joking at one point. I was like, I ought to go in and get all the stuff and see if I can beat them back out here.
Yeah, before they get out there.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Or just take it over to where their office thing is, you know, because I know where it's at. You know, just take it over there and knock and be like, hey, do you have my order done yet? If they say no, be like, here it is. Can I go?
Yeah.
But, you know, this guy, he was super nice. And I was still really mad because it is still way beyond reasonable. But again, I've had people walk out in the middle of a shift on me, and it sucks so bad. And at least I knew about it, you know, because I mean, I worked in a video store. It's easy to, you know, not easy to leave and not get noticed, you know, but you know, so I was like, man, you know, and they were slammed. Like I said, they were just getting crushed. So it's like they probably didn't really have anyone else to send over there to help her. But when he found out, he was like, oh, man, and he got over there and started helping her get stuff out. So I haven't done it yet. I'm going to call Monday or tomorrow. Yeah. And see what I can get done. Cause like I said, on one hand, I'm like, I'm very much not the type of person to try to get free stuff from places. You know, I'm usually just like, okay, I'll remember this kind of a thing. You know, like you just won't get more business from me. That's more of what's likely to happen. But with this, it's like I said, it's like, I you know, that's a really sucky position to be in. And the other problem though, is it's like, now I'm a little leery to do it again. Even though I think it was just a perfect storm of bleh, you know, it was the night before a snowstorm. It was, you know, they had somebody walk out on them. Their scanners weren't working right. It was like everything was trying to go wrong for them. So, you know, my rage quickly subsided, and, you know, I'm still very upset and very disappointed with it, but at the same time, I'm not going to go screaming and yelling at anybody. Because they were trying, you know?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I know me from a couple years ago, I would have went in and made the biggest scene. I would have been yelling and, you know, whatever, and probably demanding my money back. And, you know, this time, I don't get me wrong, I very strongly considered, if nothing else, going, hey, cancel this order and give me my money. You know, refund the money, because this is stupid. You know, or give me a card and I'll go finish, basically. Yeah. You know? So, I was proud of myself that I didn't let my rage completely take over, you know, even though I was pretty steamed for a little while there, but I didn't act on it, you know, because it really wasn't the hill I want to die on, you know, that kind of going back to that.
Yeah, and also it sounds like you honestly had some empathy.
I did, because I really have been there, and it sucks.
Yeah, and that's a big deal. You know, that's getting out of yourself and going, okay, you know, I know what you're going through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, I remember one of the video stores I worked at. I remember I had 2 employees call off on a Friday night. We were getting crushed, and it was me. So I'm on the phone in between customers trying to find anybody to come in. You know, like I just need another body in here. And, you know, eventually, like, the store manager came in and helped, because it was just, you know, it was just way too much. And meanwhile, every person coming up, I'm so sorry for your wait. People waited like half an hour and, you know, 45 minutes for a movie, you know, which I wouldn't have done, but, you know, I'd have been like, this is ridiculous, and walked out. But yeah, like I said, and it stinks being on that other side, because you're doing everything you can. And like him, he couldn't do anything because he didn't know. You know, had he known sooner, he might have been able to ask someone else, maybe whose shift was done, hey, can you stay on for an hour or two and help out over there? Or he could have just gone over and pitched in, or whatever. You know, at least he could weigh his options. By not telling him, he had no clue what was going on. You know, like, geez.
Don't you want to see that exchange? What led to that?
Oh, man,
like somebody just
right?
bailing? Like,
yeah, well, it's like Tony told the story, a couple months ago about where he works, where someone just walked out in the middle of the shift. They just left.
like, I'm out of here.
And that was it. It's like I said, I had that happen to me once too, or a few times actually, where somebody was just like, you know what? I just don't care about this. And they just leave. And I was like, oh, terrible. Yeah. I had a woman that she got yelled at by a customer and she quit right afterward. She's like, I don't need this. And she left. And I was like, well, I mean, I understand. You're only making like $5 an hour, Yeah. So I used to straight up tell customers to their face, but like, I'm not making enough money to let you yell at me.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's true. It costs way more than $5 an hour. Oh, man. So anyway, yeah, that was something. Huh. Yeah. So I got home and I inventoried everything to make sure, and there were 2 other things missing, but we didn't get charged for them. So it's like,
oh, that's good.
Who cares? I'd prefer if they were there, but like I said, we didn't get charged for them, so I don't have a gripe there. The water we did get charged for, though, so I certainly will be making sure we get the water, which we need anyway, so it's not, it's like, it's more of a, hey, we were here, we didn't get this, and whatever, but, yeah. Oh, man. I do not envy being the store manager probably for the next couple days off of that, because he probably had everybody calling, or at least from when he took over forward. The other people probably would be calling anyway because it's just, absurd. But yeah. So yeah, wow. that was one night I got home and I was just like, I'm done. My brother and I were still hungry. There's a McDonald's right across the parking lot. We were planning on going. We were going to go get Chinese food, but it was like 10:30 by the time we were leaving the store, it was just after 10. I'm sorry. And, he's like, what do you want to eat? And I'm like, I don't even care. I'm like, I just need to eat at this point. And he's like, McDonald's? I'm like, I don't care. It's just so stupid. So anyway, yeah, that was good fun. That's highly recommend it. So weird, isn't it? Like, I avoided the long lines and all the stuff, which usually drive me. The lines don't bother me that much as long as they're moving, because things take, things take the time they take. You can't
That's true.
do much about that, Yeah. But it's, thinking, we're smart and went the other way this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, not so fast.
Not so much, yeah.
That guy look like the dumb one now. To the person who's 10 people deep in the line, like, sucker, I was in and out here in an hour and a half.
And I read a magazine.
Yeah, right? Man. Yeah, it could have. So yeah, that's about all that's really happened to me this week. The other days have been, it's kind of like you were saying, just getting back into your normal stuff, like, like today, getting the podcast done and everything and, recorded or posted, I mean, and, just doing the stuff that, we normally do on a day-to-day basis. It's kind of weird because, like you were saying about, after, you just want to get back to your stuff. It was, like I loved having Roxana here and it was great. And then when she wasn't here, I was like, on one hand, it's like, how it is, like when you get your bed back, you can like sleep in the middle, sleep diagonal, but I would, but then it's like, yeah, but I'd rather have her here, like it's just, I'd rather have that than the bed all to myself kind of a thing, So it's like, I want my routine, but I also want this. Like, I want this to be my routine. That's the way to word it. Yeah. I want that to be my routine. So it's,
that was kind of the fun thing for like the last time my mother visited, she stayed down the street at a hotel, which was great. Mm-hmm. Previously when my mom and dad were here, it was before Sharon was here. And, the fun part about it is like I learn more and more why I married the right person, because we really are so much alike in our routines and how we like to be. And, there's a reason why we have separate bedrooms, and because we like our space. We like our own space, and we definitely want to share the in-between times. We want to be making connections.
Right.
Like she'll go walk in every once in a while. I'll be like, just vegging on the couch, like just, decompressing. And she'll be like, will you scratch my back? I'm like, there's a back scratcher up there. She's like, yeah, I want human contact.
It's like you grab her hand and then point at the back scratcher.
And those are the moments where it's like, okay, come here, sit down. That kind of stuff where we have that. But then the rest of the time, it's like, seriously, it's like I understand her. Like when it's like I'm with the right person, and it just makes me really grateful. And it's kind of fun.
That's why I said it's cool, but on the other hand, it also is like it actually wasn't more that scenario as much as it was, like with stuff kind of being up in the air with Jim being in the hospital too.
That's the hard part. Yep.
Yeah, everything was just felt weird, but it wasn't bad. It just was different, and that's all. So now, like I said, I'm like, like, okay, I had my, I got my, I got my bed back, but it's like, it's one of those, like, you'll be over dramatic and be like, I got my bed back, but at what cost?
So true.
So, yeah. Oh, man. So, yeah, I hope no one else has to go through what I did at the grocery store.
Oh, that's terrible.
I hope the employees didn't get yelled at too much by people, because especially the ones that were trying, because I think in the end, I think what really happened was I think they were in the middle of pulling our order, and I'll bet that's when the person left. So the next person who came into it had to basically go all the way to the beginning and make sure what was going on, make sure that the stuff they said was pulled was actually pulled, type of thing. And that
literally starting over. Yep.
And whereas they should have been done, but instead they were actually back at the beginning, so I will say this though. And I mentioned this to the manager already, but I was like, you really need to tell your corporate there needs to be some sort of an alert system to where it's like, hey, we're running behind. Here's the estimated time. Like, do you still want this, or do you, there has some
like an out almost,
yeah. Because like with us, if they would have been like, hey, there's a 3-hour delay, I would have been like, nah, I'm good. I'll go inside and get it.
It's kind of funny because like that's like when you haven't had the luxury of being in an airport, finding out that, things have gone wrong, right? And that's what it's like, it's like, that's how it is.
Yep.
And they have, but they're more set up for that kind of stuff. Like there's, we don't know. And then eventually, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're most of the time, unfortunately, sometimes they don't have that opportunity, which that's when it really stinks.
Yeah.
When it's like you're flying on some budget airline where they don't have those choices.
Yeah.
And then it's like your experience, but that's pretty much it. And like Jeannie, when she got one flight canceled, there was some guy that just was losing his mind. And she literally was like, yeah, why don't you go ahead and help him.
Right.
I'll be here like a normal human.
Right. Yeah, right.
Who can be kind and have a regular conversation with you.
Yeah.
He seems to be losing his mind. He needs some help right now.
Yeah, because it's not like the person at the counter is the one who delayed or canceled the flight. It's not like they're just standing there going, "Oh, hey, check this out. Check this out. This flight has been canceled."
What it was the fact that they weren't going to bus. And so he lost his, like, I could just see that whole thing, like, watch this. We are no longer busing.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Oh, man. Well,
oh, my God.
Well, and the thing is, it's like, it makes sense for them to not bus. It's not like something to where you're like, why are they not doing, it's like, we're not doing this because we can't see. Like,
that's the other part. When I love it when people just lose their mind over a mechanical thing. It's like, yeah, sorry, we'd rather be safe.
Yeah. Sorry. I mean, if you want to drive, go ahead and rent a car.
Yeah, like someone's losing their mind over the repairs being done on the plane. And it's like, yeah, I kind of don't want to fall out of the sky. Sit down and pipe down.
Yeah, that is what everyone else should do, is literally go, no, dude. Like,
take your time, make sure it's right, fix it. Because the funny part is, a lot of times with these repairs, they'll get a mechanic out there real quick to fix it, but then somebody has to come out and do like this authorization.
Yeah.
Like somebody has to fill out a form.
Right.
And you end up waiting longer almost for the person that's, because they have to certify it.
Yep.
They have to come out and say, okay, did you do this? Yes, I did. Bob, what did you do? Da-da-da-da-da. Yeah. Okay, let's get the pilot's signature, and file it in triplicate and da-da-da. And that probably takes longer than the repair.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're probably right.
Yes.
Yeah, it's, oof. Yeah, it's definitely an area where I've, made quite a bit of stride because, waiting and I generally didn't used to go along and get along. And there's still some, like, I refuse to wait long lengths of time for food. Like if I go into a restaurant and they're like, it's an hour wait, I'm like, nah, I'll go find something else. That's just, unless it's somewhere that I have absolutely wanted to be, like I really gotta want to eat there. Otherwise I'm like, nah, let's go somewhere else, cause I just, there's so many places to eat. There's no reason for me to have to wait another hour if I'm hungry.
Yeah.
So I've always been that way, and I still am that way. But I'm better about it. I've been to a few places where I had to wait, an hour or 45 minutes. And I'm like, okay, fine, but I definitely try not to.
Hey, I just had a thought. Because I was just looking at the topic idea we had for tonight, and I just thought about, what was my power word for last year?
Yeah, I was trying to come up with that myself because I couldn't remember what.
I'd have to go back and listen to the episode.
Yeah, I think mine was action or something to that effect, because I had said I'd been basically in the planning stage. Now it was time to, put things into motion.
Yeah, because I think, but that was mine from 2 years ago.
Right.
So how do you feel? Do you think you did action last year?
I think I did. I did some. I think looking back, I didn't do as much as I had hoped I was going to do. Because I had hoped, to be pushing myself more on the things that I have anxiety about or just haven't been able to do because of depression or anxiety, and there's a decent amount of that I, like I said, I look at and go, I could have done better, but I'm not beating myself up over it. Instead it's more of a looking at it going, okay, well this year try to be better, like concept. And
because I would actually, just thinking back on last year and everything that you did do towards your depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
You did take a lot of action. And not just that. I mean, also like, the whole thing about the MRIs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it didn't quite 100% work out, but you put in effort that you've never done before on
That's
that,
true.
right? You took action, right?
Yeah.
And therapy and the visits with the neuro doc guy.
Yeah.
And having to travel to go see him and blah, blah, blah. So,
right.
I don't know. I kind of feel like, I feel like you did a lot of action on.
Yeah. You know what? Here's what it is. It's, I think like I'm looking at like 4 things. You are on the outside and you're seeing the picture.
Yeah, I'm looking at the big picture.
You're seeing the big picture.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's because, in my head, it's like, well, I didn't really draw. I didn't drive. I don't have a job. There was something else. I don't remember what the other thing was. But anyway, that's, those were kind of my the things I wanted to have action on. But you're right. In all these other things, I have made quite a bit of movement. I haven't stood still this year on any of it. I've really worked on shaping my my outlook on things. I really think even from last year, I think I've made a pretty significant turn, with a lot of stuff that used to really affect me. And now I'm kind of letting some of it just kind of bounce off of me. So,
well, because I think also some of what, like, I know in the past when you talked about being in your, when depression was winning, that like it won.
Yeah.
And to me, it feels like you put up a fight last year.
Yeah, I really did.
Against it.
Yeah.
Like, whereas years before where it was like, yeah, you got me.
Well,
I'm down.
I think you're right, because I actually have said this to two different people now that I kind of wonder at this point if I could cope with depression on my own, like, without medicine or whatever. Not that I'm doing it. I'm curious. I would love to, like, if I could do it without any sort of risk, side effects, blah, 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 I would love to just, do a computer simulation to see how it turned out, kind of a thing, and say, okay, well, we're not there yet, because eventually I would like to not have to be on medicine if I don't have to be. And I feel like I've gotten a much better grip on my depression and how to help myself when I have it, through it, all that stuff. But again, I'm not, and of course I would talk to my doctor before I do anything. I'm not going to just stop, but my anxiety has still been pretty ridiculous at times. So that's a whole different fight. But I think I've really, really, like you said, I think I've really fought this year against both, honestly, but especially against the depression. I think I've let that win for so long that I was finally like, nah, I'm done. Like I've got tools now, like I feel like I can hit your curveball, like let's go,
So I just looked at the show description from January 11th, 2018, and it says that we talk about our power word for 2018, and then we say, what word will you use as a goal for the year? Let us know.
Yep.
Except we didn't.
Then silly.
Ours.
I know. I never even thought about that I should put ours in there.
Yeah. And
that
I didn't
way.
Even write it down this time.
Right. I was going to say that way, if nothing else, we could at least look at that and go, okay, that's what it was.
Because one thing that that what kind of triggered this thought was I was reading this. It's 19 things to start doing for yourself in the new year. And there's one paragraph here that says, in simple terms, making sure I was happy while working toward a compelling future. So whenever I put down a goal, I also made sure to define how I wanted it to feel. I think that's a great, that's what kind of jogged the idea of the power word is because to me, the power word is about a feeling. And so how do you want this year to feel? And like this was examples, instead of saying, because this whole story is about 80% of New Year's resolutions fail, and instead of saying that what you're going to do, the goal is to say what it's going to feel like by saying, instead of saying I'm going to exercise 3 times a week, she wrote, I'm going to love my body, take really good care of it by practicing yoga, dancing, and doing other activities I feel drawn to. And I think, that's really a great way of taking, you can have very specific goals, but by bringing it down to how it feels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it could.
Go ahead.
I think you'll be less disappointed because it's not about, this comes kind of a little bit back to the masculine, feminine kind of stuff. The masculine side focuses on the accomplishment, the numbers, the amount, the data basically, where the feminine side says, how did it feel? Mm-hmm. How does, regardless of whether you met this number, do you feel good today? And
because I've seen people on Instagrams, like some of the like fitness people, where they'll post a picture of them from years ago, and they'll be like, here I was 5 years ago, here I am today, and it's like I weigh the same amount, but I'm actually taking care of myself now, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So back then they hit their goal, but they were miserable because they were starving themselves or they were, whatever. Whereas now they're taking appropriate care of themselves. So now they feel good about it, So that just achieving the goal isn't necessarily, because realistically I could go, I want to lose 100 pounds this coming year. And I could do it. I could do really extreme things and try to, lose 100 pounds. But it's like, am I going to be happy? Is it going to solve the problems that I have? No, that's why I'm in therapy, and, but that's a much better.
Is mine focus?
Is
it focus?
It might have been.
Oh, no, that just jumped in my head.
I can't believe we didn't write them down.
Winning.
Yeah. Pretty good.
That's mine. That's going to be mine for this year. Winning.
Yeah. Mine, actually, mine is going to be pushing, as in, pushing my boundaries, pushing against my fear / anxiety, because, like I said, I think I've really gone after depression, which kind of was a strategic move because really between the two, fear and anxiety have ruled me for a while. The depression, as my anxiety got stronger, the depression's kind of weakened because it's not as much about, it's weird. It's like I still can't get out of bed, but a lot of the days it's just more of a why bother to get out of bed? Whereas I've also had the I can't get out of bed days. But I'm noticing those have been lessened, and I'm seeing more of a what's the point kind of thing. So it's, I think it's time to really start focusing on pushing against that also without reducing, the work that I've done on depression. And I think I'm in a spot where I can do that now. Whereas I didn't think before I could really take both on. Because they're both formidable opponents, especially together, because they are such a 1-2 combo.
Yeah. I like that idea, that word, because it's an action word that and it's not a finish line word. It's not a, it's not a goal. It's an action that can be taken anytime and all the time. Mm-hmm. And there's really no losing with it.
Yeah. It kind of goes in I've been reading stuff lately about the whole concept of, instead of making these big sweeping goals and everything, to really just do just be better than yesterday. Just try to be better than yesterday. If you fell down on your diet, cool. Get back on it. If you didn't exercise today and wanted to, go tomorrow, or, those kind of things, I think it's part of my overall, more positive approach to stuff. Mm-hmm. Is if I'm just trying to do better, I'm not putting intense pressure on myself to succeed,
Yeah.
And then if that's the case, there's not really a failure there, because much like we've talked about before, it's like, well, if I don't do well today, there's tomorrow, So even if you feel like you failed, it's a minimal failure, because you've got how many days in front of you? Who knows? You may have hundreds, thousands, whatever, so I think that's kind of where my mindset has been recently. So that's part of why, it fits in that whole thing. But it is also because the only way to overcome anxiety and fear literally is to push into it, to actually exist in it, and then realize that you're okay. That's essentially how, so it's a hard thing to do, especially if you're
positive message.
Yeah. It's the truth. I've said it a billion times, but I always go back to us in Chicago, that that Van Gogh exhibit. It was crammed, and I was so anxious. But at the same time, I was just like, I'm okay. Like, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else right now. I want to be here. Like, I wasn't like, oh, I wish I was outside. It was, I want to be here because I'm experiencing a thing,
Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff, anyone listening, that it helps. And once you have that, like any of this stuff, therapists will always tell you, like, because once you can visualize a success, then when you have a similar situation, you use that to help you envision success for whatever it is you're trying to do now,
Because that's like accepting your anxiety in that way is to me kind of like accepting being nervous if you get on a stage.
Yeah.
Or you're everyone's focused on you. It's like you're gonna be nervous.
Yep.
And yet you still get up and do it. And just like, you're going to feel anxiety, yet you still get out and do.
Yeah. And it may take me years and years and years to get to where I'd like to be. I doubt it's going to be snap my fingers and, I'm like, and I'm all of a sudden I'm driving and I'm doing all these crazy, it's like it's not going to be a fast thing. And that's the other reason why I chose the way I did word-wise, is because it's a gradual move, but it's still movement. And that's the key.
I think, I'll go listen to last year's and be like, oh, wow, you're full of it. But I have a feeling I talked about focus from the standpoint of that because my debt was a big deal to me at that point, and that I'd made these changes and I wanted to stay kind of eye on the prize, not get distracted from it. And looking back, if that really was my intention, I met it to one degree, but not in others. Meaning that once I started getting back into music, I was like, I could have done a lot more towards my debt if I didn't allow myself to get wrapped up in the, because I'm playing music. It's like it requires a little bit of investment always.
Yeah.
It's just part of the deal. It's like any other hobby that has equipment involved with it.
Yep.
It's like you need to do what you need to do and I don't regret that, but I think that was a distraction, from that. But when I look at the year and what I've accomplished, and that I am back playing music again, and not just with, that it's like one band went, I was talking to Dave about it. Like we sat down and, we did that first gig sometime in, February, the first time I played bass. And then by March, we sat down with Hart and started talking about, doing a band, and we played all summer long.
Yeah. Yep.
And we had a great time. And like, we've been playing gigs recently where we've gotten together for a rehearsal, gone up there and just crushed it. They've been some of my favorite gigs over the last few weeks. We've got a couple more coming up, and, and then joining the other band and really, pushing myself, because those guys they push themselves. It's been really inspirational. But that's what kind of leading me towards, like, I have a lot on my plate for this year. I don't necessarily have anything.
Well, hold on really quick before you get into your word for this year or whatever. But one thing that, again, I think is really interesting is how, like, especially with money stuff, like, when you're in it, like, you look at it and go, I'm not doing enough, because I think it's you want to see yourself succeed at it, which means you want to crush it, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But again, the fact that in this year you made the movement you did in your debt, you also were able to afford, some new gear, and you're playing music again. It's like, I think that's just win, win, win. And you're still, you're still moving toward your goal with your debt. It's like, it may not have been as big of a win, like you said, as you wanted, but I think it's still a pretty good sized win, across the year.
And one reason I think it's even bigger is that now I'm doing it with Sharon.
Yes.
And that was a big deal.
Yeah.
That was a big deal for a relationship, was to do that and to open up, in ways that we hadn't before, because it's just part of our relationship was, her money's her money, my money's my money. And it's like, okay, well, maybe it's time to start looking at where those things come together.
Yeah.
Do what we can, and I know one of the things I need to find some balance there a little bit, but I think that'll happen in time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. It's that I don't regret anything about last year. And that's why it was really great to look at, all right, where did I get to? Wow, I got somewhere.
Yeah.
That felt good. I looked at that number and I went, yeah, that's okay. I can deal with that.
Yeah.
If it doesn't change significantly over the next 6 months, I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've come a long way.
Yeah.
And it kind of where it leads me into is the idea of, there was one thing that on this list, the first one was start focusing on what you already have. And that it said abundance isn't something you acquire, it's something you tune into. Which again, it's like that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So start noticing, focusing on, and truly appreciating what's currently in your life. This year, I'm going to focus on the people I love, the fact that I'm healthy, and knowing that I'm in charge of where I steer my life. For me, this is going to be a busy year. There's a lot of things on my plate. There's also a lot of options for things to come in. But if I look at everything that I have right now, I don't need anything.
Yeah.
I truly don't.
Yeah.
I just need to tune into enjoying what I already have, and I'm going to have a great year.
Yeah.
And so I think my power word is going to be fun. I want to have fun. And I know it's a simplistic way of saying it, but it's this idea of I want to tune into the moments without thinking about, oh, it would be better if this. It would be better if that.
Right.
I want to have fun in it as is.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't need anything more. It doesn't need massaging. It doesn't, the grass is perfectly green where my feet are today.
Yeah. Mm.
And that's what I want to do for the rest of this year, is have that kind of a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good place to be for sure. Yeah. And it's, goes into, as we've talked various times about, gratitude, and, really focusing and tying into your, being, or having gratitude for what you do have and recognizing all those things, and for anyone listening, if you want to go that way too, it's, we've talked on here about doing gratitude lists, or even like the stuff I've said at like the end of the show where it's like, just tell somebody you appreciate them. Tell them you care about them, that kind of stuff. It's like, that's still showing gratitude, or, whatever it is, give somebody what my mom calls a smile gift, which is something that, like you just see a little something for somebody, nothing crazy money wise, but it'll put a smile on their face kind of a thing. So you get it for them. Or, it's like those where you like see someone looking at something in a store and you sneak in there and grab it, for them and then give it to them later or something, like that kind of stuff. But just try to give of yourself. And I think you'll just show and feel so much gratitude in that, that it never hurts any of us to be that way, to really tie and focus into our, what we really do have. 'Cause it's, there's a guy I was talking with the other day that he had to have part of his leg amputated, and he said like his doctors are constantly like, do you need antidepressants? Do you need and he's like, I don't. He's like, I'm just like, it sucks, but at least I can still this, and this kind of a thing. He's like, a friend of his apparently had to have most of the leg taken off. And, so he's like, it's hard for him to like drive because it was his right leg. Most people use their right leg when they're driving, so you have to change. Like he was saying that he hasn't driven in a while, and he said now he's going to, but he's like, I have to get used to using my left foot. You know, he's like, or I can use, he's got a prosthetic. So he was like, or I could use my right foot. Because he's like, I don't want to do anything really modified, because what if I'm driving someone else's car, or what if, my car breaks down? And I was like, that's a good point, because it's not cheap to have those mods done, Yeah. So, but it just, his attitude about it, is just very much this stinks, but I could have died, like, and, that he's just sees the world as the same, except certain things he's got to make adjustments. And that's basically his outlook. And I was like, I told him, I said, dude, you keep that outlook. I was like, you're on the right path for sure. But he even said he keeps wondering, like, should I be depressed? Should I feel this way? And I'm like, and I was like, I get that. But like in my head, I'd say no. If it's not there, don't, but I understand where the psychiatrist and stuff would, or psychologist would kind of be like, you need to mourn, no matter what it is you lose in your life, you need some sort of period of mourning kind of a thing. And I think that's what they're waiting for. Because I'm sure most people, or a lot of people that have any sort of an amputation, probably do have some depression, but his attitude's great about it. So, and he's just like, I'm grateful that I have this and that. And it's like, wow. Yes, that's exactly it. And it's like, it's funny because like you listen to him talk and then you go, how could they offer him antidepressants? Like this dude's got like he's got the mindset we're all working to have, Yeah. So yeah, that's people like that. Every time I meet people like that, I'm always, it kind of, how like you just take bits from people.
Yes.
All the time. Like we all do it.
Yes.
You just pick up little stuff from people here and there. And it's, what I said about being around you when we first were talking and everything, it was the way you framed everything for some reason was just different to me. 'Cause it didn't feel like you were just reading out of a book basically, and that helped me a lot, and listening to the stuff you went through in our parallels and stuff, and I know I've had that effect of somebody else, and it's awesome that we can be this like train of, of work, so, yeah, it's, hopefully it'll continue. Hopefully he keeps that attitude too.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
That's one of the things that, Hart, who I play with, he loves to look over it and, cause I when I play, I tend to move around a lot and I try not to be super serious. I want to smile. I want to, I want to be having fun. It's like, it's more than just joy, because I generally have joy in my life, but I really want to like outwardly express it. And he always says how much he loves to look over and see me smiling.
Yeah.
While I'm playing. Right. And it was funny because I was watching the other band the other day, and I tend to listen to music while I'm playing it, and I don't make a lot of eye contact with people. It actually always like kind of unnerves me when I see musicians like looking at each other in the face while they're playing. It's like, right. But
you're more of a back to back kind of guy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I want to be headbanging,
Yeah, the singer's got its back to you, and you're exactly.
Shoulder to shoulder,
right?
Yeah. I don't want to be looking deep in your eyes while I'm just tearing that lead up. Like, oh yeah, you feeling that, man? You feeling that?
Depends on the song. Maybe you do. Maybe you're missing out.
Creepy.
Yeah.
The day I do that, you can just smack me upside the head.
That's a great point, though, because you do enjoy music. You enjoy playing music. Yeah. If you're up there and you're not enjoying what you're doing, it's like, why am I doing this?
Well, everyone looks so dour most of the time. Yeah. Like they're so focused.
I was just going to say it's that focus. Yeah.
But it's like, you can also just smile a little. And so I'm trying to do that a little more. I'm trying to make that eye contact, and not in a way where I'm like like I have to stare at them, but where I just check in a little bit.
Right.
And I grin and I go, isn't this great?
Yeah. Right.
But I want to express that with my eyes and my face. Like, isn't this amazing?
Yeah, exactly. It's, I've seen so many athletes with that kind of thing too, like where they talk about it and, they're like, I'm not, I'll quit when it's not fun anymore. It's like, cause it's like they know, most of them know how lucky they are to play a game and make a ton of money to just play a game. They don't have to, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not like they don't work, but it's, a whole different thing.
It's how they're doing it.
Yeah. But in the end, if you're not having fun, why are you doing it? Well, at least at that level, you could say money, but,
Well, yeah, and some people do, like, if you look at the feeling. So what's the feeling? If the feeling is that driving yourself and accomplishing and I get that, but there's also the part where it's like, what about the just feeling of enjoyment, of that idea of just joy, where, because to me, that's when I'm at my best.
Yeah.
Typically is when I'm just enjoying it. I'm not overly focused on it. That's when I'm not nervous. I'll tell you that when I'm on stage,
right?
When I'm just really looking forward to it. And yeah, that comes with practice and that comes with putting in the work and, those kind of things. But there's times like there's still songs that I don't know real well. And I'm just like, when that note comes, I either hit it or I'm not. In the meantime, I'm just going to smile and enjoy myself.
Yep. Exactly.
Because it ain't going to, I'm not going to suddenly memorize the entire tune.
Yeah. My dad used to frustrate me so much when I was younger because I'd be worried about something and he would just be like, it'll work itself out or it won't. And it used to make me so mad because it's like, that's not an answer, and it is an answer. It may not be the answer I want or whatever. It is an answer. Yeah.
So funny.
And, but I've gotten more and more of that mentality as I've gotten older and stuff. There are so many times to where you literally just have to take that step back and go, it'll work itself out or it won't.
It's like what you're talking about, like, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's that same idea is one that's like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Oh, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. What? Miserable? Yeah.
Right.
You are, because whatever, you just got sober or you just broke up with your girlfriend or you lost your job. Yeah, you're supposed to be lonely. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. Yeah. Now be there.
Right.
And that's the last thing. And until you can understand that concept,
I think it gets to the point that it's like the ultimate letting go, to where you're just like, for lack of a better term, it's like, I'm just going to put this into the universe and whatever happens is going to happen, and I'm not saying, with everything in life, but there are just some things where you're like, I've done all I can do,
Yep.
It's like, a golfer, they get done with their round and they're in the clubhouse and it's like, I can't do anything else. I can't make my score better now. So someone else can come along and I'm either going to win or I'm not. You can't do anything else about it,
Yep.
So, and it's tough. That was definitely, and especially if you go back and listen to early episodes of this, I talk about that and you talk about it too, about the whole letting go of control of things. And it's just sometimes that's what you have to do because you don't realize that, like with whatever it is you're trying to grab and control, that you're also grabbing all of this stress with it and just holding on to that too. And it's just, none of us need it.
Yep. Yeah, you mentioned it last week and I'm like, couldn't agree more.
Yep. So, all right. Well,
I think we made an episode.
Yeah, I was going to say we're pretty long here. Yeah. Yeah, so I got to pull up the thing because I can't remember. It's been too long since we've done since I've had to do this. And, of course, my email wants to reset. If you want to continue the conversation, you can email us at thecrazylifepod@outlook.com. You can visit our website at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com, I believe. It'll be in the show notes if I got that wrong. You can find Jen on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life, and that's Jen with a G. Jen's Crazy Life, right? Why am I feel like everything I'm saying is wrong?
It is.
I'm a mess. Yeah,
Doubt yourself.
Jen's Crazy Life. Yeah, right. Dang it. I thought that voice was gone for a bit. You can check out Jen's other podcast, which is called Shake the Sheets, just by searching for Shake the Sheets, or go to shakethesheets.com. You can find this show also on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod. And, Henno, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Henno. Find me on Facebook, Henno Heiter, and currently we are crushing Gotham Lights and the Orville, or we're crushing Gotham and the Orville on Gotham/Orvilleite podcast. So if you're into either one of those shows, this season of Gotham has been pretty cool. Looks like they're going out as they should have started.
You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. You can find my other podcast at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. That show is not safe for work, so be careful where you listen to it. You can find this show on Facebook at facebook.com/group/crazylifepodcast. As Henno mentioned earlier in the episode, we're now part of Danger Entertainment, which can be found at dangerentertainment.net. Michael, no fancy sound drop for you on this podcast. We're also part of the Tangeabout Network, which can be found at tangeaboutnetwork.com. So go give those two sites a look. You may find some other shows that you're interested in. And we'd appreciate it if you haven't already, if you could rate, review, and subscribe. It helps us out a little bit here and there or whatever. I don't know. We just like to have people say, hey, I don't know. I got nothing. We just like to be praised. That's it. Feed our narcissism. Oh, man. Or we would also very much appreciate it if you would share our links with, friends, or just put it into your, Twitter feed, Facebook feed, whatever. We appreciate it, and we thank anyone who's done that. You know what? I have one more thing to talk about before two things kind of, but one is wanted to say this. I'll say it again next week too, but Bell Let's Talk Day is coming up.
Oh, cool!
And it's on I believe it's the 30th. Where is it? Oh, man. Yeah, my browser is really giving me trouble. I'm pretty sure it's the 30th of this month, January. And Bell, the company in Canada, will donate 5 cents for every applicable text, call, tweet, social media video view, and use of their Facebook frame or Snapchat filter towards mental health initiatives.
January 30th.
Okay. That's what I thought. Yeah, now the page loads. Yeah. So, the goal with this every year I know on Twitter especially, is to basically see how much money, people can get Bell to donate. And, and they're totally fine with it because they don't, from what I know, I've never heard of them putting a cap on the amount, So, yeah. So definitely on that day, if you have a story to tell about mental health, post a tweet, or if, use one of these different ways. I'll have a link to their page so you can see the different, things to use. 'Cause, man, where'd it go? I think it's hashtag Bell Let's Talk is the hashtag. Boy, it was here before. I don't know where it went. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So Bell Let's Talk. And in the past, I know, like on Twitter, there's been a little like emoji that pops up next to it. And like I said, every year I usually will tell some stuff about, things that have helped me or struggles I've had or whatever. And there's so many good stories that I've read. I mean, there's some terrible ones, of course, too, but I've read so many, like, I got help, kind of a thing. So definitely share your stories on, like I said, whatever platform. And if you're able to use the, Snapchat filter or whatever, it's like, use it on everything you snap that day. So
basically,
yeah. And the other thing actually was about Michael Liel, who the head of our network, Danger Entertainment, and co-host of the Who the What Now podcast. On their latest episode, I believe it is, he said some very nice things about our show, about listening to it and how it helped, kind of helped him a little bit. And just wanted to make sure, we said that we appreciate that, because we do. We like hearing stuff like that. And, glad you went and got help. Glad he took the step. And hopefully we'll have him on here in a week or two and talk about it. Yeah. So there we go. Okay, now that that's out of the way, make sure if you feel as though you may harm yourself or others, that, you let someone know. And if you need help, please reach out. There's tons of ways out there for you to get help. There's different groups, there's advocates, there's websites, there's your, local doctors and everything. There's just so many ways. So please reach out if you need help. I know the first step is really hard to take, but, make that your New Year's resolution. Like, make that, that's a great one. This year I'm going to see a doctor or whatever, for help. Like Henno said earlier, go get the estimate. And, if you, wow, I totally lost my place in my head. Jeez. Oh boy, I am a train wreck. Anyway, so, reach out to others. Again, this Bell Let's Talk Day that's coming up is a great way to essentially reach out without reaching out, because you never know who will read your story and go, wow, that's me, and act on it, and, they'll go get help or the whatever. That's what got me to do it. And I honestly think that's, everyone kind of has to have that moment. I think, not everyone, but a lot of people do with mental health. I think it's kind of a, I do all that, like that kind of thing. I did it with an artist from an online comic called Penny Arcade that posted a blog about how in all his fears were the exact fears that I had. And he was like, I'd like, but at this point I've been on antidepressants for months and I feel blah, and it was like, really? And that's when I was like, okay, I'm ready, let's do this. 'Cause, my fears were all, pushed aside by that. So, but reach out to people, especially, around the country, you got people who are, not working because of the government shutdown or whatever, and I've seen so many things on the news and in different places about, people helping those families get food and different stuff. And that's awesome, so yeah, reach out to somebody and just, tell them you love them, tell them you care, tell them you appreciate them, and, be kind to yourself as well as others. So yeah, I think that's it, right? I think I got most of the stuff. If not, all the information for us is in the show notes. So yeah, and I guess, I don't know. I know you want to take us out of here, I guess?
Yeah, this week, don't just live your omelet. Grab it in your fist and crush it.